Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to talk about an album that literally changed my life. It changed the way that I listen to music. And it all happened back in 1979. But let's go back a little bit, just a little bit. Now, of course, I had been raised, I was listening to the Beatles, Neil Diamond, Glenn Campbell, Partridge Family, all that wonderful stuff, the Osmonds. We grew up with that, Elvis Presley. This is the stuff that, I'd hear all the stuff on the radio. It's just wonderful. But, once you hit your teen years, you started adapting your own preferences. You start discovering your own music. And I discovered this new kind of music in 1978 when I stayed up and I watched a TV show, had The Jam, The Clash, Kate Bush, and I was blown away. It was like February or March that year, 1978. And the first album that I bought that sort of set the course on what I was going to listen to for the rest of my life was The Jam's This Is the Modern World, which was their second album. Of course, this is not highly regarded in their catalog, but it is to me because it's just great guitar pop music. And it was also the first album that I got in this genre, which you could say was punk, new wave, power pop, whatever. Just whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter to me. But that's not the album I'm going to talk about. That is an album that changed my life. But the one I'm going to talk about now, and I'm telling you this for a particular reason, and I'll show you that at the end of this video. The album I'm talking about, I heard, must have been by the summer of 1979, maybe the late summer, is the debut album by LA's very own The Last, or actually Hermosa Beach band. Just an incredible band. Joe Nolte, singer-songwriter, his brothers David Nolte and Mike Nolte, as well as Vitas Monterey on keyboards and flute, and Jack Reynolds on drums. Holy. This album, it just blew me away because of the fact that it was so varied. It was very steeped in 60s music. You can tell that their influences were anything from psych to, guitar jangle pop to garage rock. And they just threw it into their own original mix. The Last LA Explosion, I had never heard of the band before. Now, they had a couple singles that were far more sort of punky and garagey, and a lot of people prefer those recordings over the album recordings of those songs. But this is when, the production is much more clean and poppier. And of course, me being a pop kid, I'm going to be attracted to that. But anyway, I saw this album. In fact, this is the CD version. I'm going to show you a framed copy that I have. This is not the original version that I had of the album. But this is the album that I first saw in the record bins at Licorice Pizza in 1979. Now, I saw that album cover and, okay, like I told you, a year before, I was already buying, punk, new wave, power pop, but I was buying stuff on major labels. And with this really, I picked up the album and I turned it around and I go, oh, it's on Bump Records. I was 15 going on 16, so I didn't quite know, the cool labels. I barely saw a couple releases on the Stiff label and Bump, and it's like, I'm like, well, no, it's not on any of the major labels, so it can't be good. Because to me, back in those days, independent albums were the equivalent of, when you go to a swap meet and there's some guy there, some weird dude playing drums and bass and guitar and singing in haunting vocals, and then they make their own album. Those are actually now referred to as private press albums. But that's kind of what I was thinking, when it came to independent labels. I was just thinking, well, this isn't good enough to be on the major labels. Like I said, I did not know at that time. I was still discovering my own way through this musical world. Each time I would go back to Licorice Pizza, and it was probably 3 or 4 times a week, just to look to see what was new. And I would flip through the bins and I just keep coming across The Last LA Explosion. And I just loved the cover. And I started thinking to myself, is that punk? Is it pop? Is it power pop? What is it? I didn't know. And I just couldn't tell. But just each time I went in, and nobody I knew had heard The Last at that time. In my high school, I didn't know anybody who listened to this. I didn't know anybody who listened to The Jam or The Clash at that point. But probably 2 or 3 weeks after this thing had come out, I finally had enough money, and I thought, well, am I going to get that album, or am I going to buy the last? And I bought the last. And I call myself a pop kid. I'm really into melodies. And this was just so full of wonderful melodies. Now, it wasn't powerful like punk or power pop. I have to admit that the production wasn't as hard-hitting as it should have been, but that helped the songs to shine through. That showed that Joe Nolte was a great songwriter. It showed that him and his two brothers, David Nolte and Mike Nolte, worked really well as vocalists and backing vocalists. It showed that Vitas Materé was an incredible musician, coming up with these great keyboard lines and flute, and it was just so amazing. And of course, Jack Reynolds, you heard him in the background. It wasn't quite as powerful as it should have been production-wise, but it is an incredible album, and it just blew my mind. And the reason why it changed my life, and the reason why it changed the way that I listen to music, is up to that point, I was only buying major label recordings. This is the first foray into independent that I thought that I had had. Well, the thing is, a lot of the albums that I'd been buying, on CBS and Atlantic and Warner Brothers and Elektra and all that kind of stuff, all the stuff that I'd been buying the previous year were stuff that had been licensed from independent labels in the UK. I didn't know that. I didn't know, bands like Gang of Four and stuff, they were all on independent labels in the UK, and then they moved over to the major labels. To me, like I said, independent was stinky. I just didn't even want to deal with it. It was just guys at swap meets, selling their home recordings. But this album opened my eyes to the wonderful world of independent music. This is such an important album that I have it framed so I can hang it on the wall. I've just moved into my new place, so I have to still hang it up. But since it's not hanging up at the moment, I thought I'd show it to you. And the reason I'm going to show it to you, by the way, also, is because I received a gift from band member Vitas Materé. Now, over the years, I've communicated with Joe Nolte, Mike Nolte, and David Nolte, and Vitas Materé from the band. Now, no, Joe, Mike, and David are not related to Nick Nolte. I know you're going to put it in the comments below. But anyway, the reason why I'm making this video is because I received a gift from Vitas Materé, and he had posted this, and I had never seen it before. I guess I didn't really look too hard on the internet. But the album was released in the UK, but they put it in a whole different album cover. And of course, there is David Nolte and Vitas Materé there. And then there is Joe Nolte, Mike Nolte, and Jack Reynolds there. And luckily, I got it autographed by both Vitas and David, who are featured on the cover. And it's just weird seeing it on the London label out of the UK. I'm not even going to look at the condition of the album because I don't have a turntable. This one's going to be eventually framed and placed right next to this incredible album. I mean, really, I hope that you understand just how important this album is to me. One of my favorite albums of all time. In fact, what I've done is I've put together a little medley featuring some songs from the album, just to give you an idea of what to expect. But seriously, sit back, relax, give this a listen, and I will see you on the other side.
Look around and you'll see what I mean. It never could have been 10 years ago. The answer should be plain when you stumble back again. They never felt the kind of pain the real world brings you out. Every man he seems so gay, looks
Well, that's it. I'd really like to thank you all for watching this video, and I'd really like to thank Vitas Monterey for sending me a copy of The Last LA Explosion, the UK version, and like I said, it's autographed by Vitas and David, and it is now a prized possession in my collection. I appreciate you all. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, to ring that bell for future notifications, and until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.